In our last blog post, I promised to go ahead and go over the different types of innocent spouse relief. So today I thought we'd talk about classic innocent spouse relief. Classic innocent spouse relief is essentially when there is an understatement of tax on the tax return, and it's covered under Internal Revenue Code 6015B, like I referenced in the last post. By the way, if you hear thunder, it's because there's a thunderstorm outside today in Tampa, Florida, and that's pretty common at this type of year. But basically, in a classic innocent spouse relief type of case, you have 5 different elements, and I'm going to go over them very quickly. And you're going to see me look to my left a little bit because, frankly, I have notes there because I can never remember what all 5 elements are because innocent spouse cases are just pretty darn rare. The first element is that the spouses had to file a joint return. They can't have filed married separate returns. If they did, then there wouldn't be innocent spouse because there's no one to point the finger at, okay? Not this finger, those fingers. So if there's no joint return, there's no innocent spouse. So if they were single or filed single or had a household or something like that, then there's no innocent spouse relief. Just move on. You're not gonna prevail under that particular method of handling an IRS case. The second element is there has to have been an understatement of tax attributable to the erroneous items of the other spouse in English. That means your spouse had to have had errors on the return that you were not familiar with. Now let's think about how that might come about. If the innocent spouse was a wage earner, got a W-2 at the end of the year, had taxes withheld, and their spouse was self-employed. Let's say they were a self-employed carpenter, self-employed lawyer, doctor, whatever. And that person, that self-employed spouse, had mistakes on their tax return. Well, it's hard to argue that the other spouse knew about those mistakes. So that's what that element really means. There were some mistakes that were due to the other spouse's bookkeeping or what have you that the innocent spouse didn't know about. The third element is the innocent spouse couldn't have known about those mistakes at the time that they filed or that they signed the tax return. So that's pretty easy to understand. You can't have known. If you knew, then you don't qualify for classic innocent spouse. The fourth element is that it would be inequitable or unfair to hold the innocent spouse liable for that understatement of tax. What does that mean? Well, I think it's a case-by-case basis. But basically, it's unfair. They didn't know, so therefore they shouldn't have to pay the money. The last is you have to file for classic innocent spouse relief within 2 years of the first collection action by the IRS. Now, what does that mean? Does that mean 2 years from the time that the return was filed? No, it doesn't mean that. It means 2 years from the date of the first collection action by the IRS. Now, collection action means something special in this code section. Collection action means basically a final notice of intent to levy is considered collection action. A recaptured refund is a collection action, and there's a few other minor things that can be considered collection action. Really, you need a professional to determine when your innocent spouse application is timely, even if you filed the return or the return had been filed for more than 2 years. I've had many, many cases where the return had been filed perhaps 5, 6 years ago, and it still had not been 2 years from the date of the first collection action. So there it is. That's an overview of classic innocent spouse. When you handle an innocent spouse case, you're going to go ahead and do the analysis for classic innocent spouse first. And then if that doesn't work, you're going to go on to the other options. So bye for now, and thanks for watching.